Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser-known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway. So welcome back to Paris History Avec a Hemingway. Today we're talking about ladies of the past, and we're going to be talking about some very famous ladies in the museums of Paris that you can visit if you're coming in the next couple of months. This will be a great one for you, so you can find out the latest about exhibitions around Paris and some of the women in the pictures and artworks that you want to see. So I'll let Claudine take it from here.
Yeah, I thought about this the other day. I was actually like, I want to write about this because I keep coming across in the museums of Paris in permanent collections as well as some special exhibits, a bunch of the ladies we've talked about. And it's always fun every time I come across some of the stuff that they've done. I'm like, oh, I get so excited and I want to share it with everybody. So we thought, why don't we just make an episode about it?
I think it's a great idea because some people are listeners, some people are readers.
Yes. So to start out with, one that's a special exhibit. It just opened this week in Paris at the Musée Marmottan Monet, which is, if you haven't been to that museum, it's absolutely amazing. It's on the edge of the Bois de Boulogne. So it's over there in the 16th. And it is a small-ish museum. It's really far out of the way, so it's not really on any, path that you would normally be on. If you were going to go out to the Fondation Louis Vuitton, it is closer to that one. You could definitely hit those two in the same day. But the Musée Marmottan Monet has been there for quite some time. And in 1971, Michael Monet, who was the son and the last descendant of Claude Monet, donated hundreds of his paintings.
Oh, wow.
That's why it's called the Marmottan Monet. But they do special exhibits, and they do right now. I was so excited. I went the morning. I was the first person in the door when it just opened, and they did an exhibit about Julie Manet. That, if you remember, when we talked about Berthe Morisot in episode number 36, we talked about Julie Manet, and she was the daughter of Berthe Morisot and Edouard Manet. And so they are Eugène Manet, sorry. And she her father died when she was young. Her mother died not that long afterwards. And then she was raised by her quote unquote uncles, which was Monet. There's so many of them. Monet. And also, she had Pissarro. She had all of these other artists that were just basically her uncles. But we know of them as some of the greatest artists that there were.
I remember that one. That was a good one.
So I was so excited to go and see this one. And I didn't realize how much of an artist she was herself. And so it was really cool because it had, of course, tons of the Manets there. It also had a ton of the pictures that her mother did because, Julie was a huge subject of Berthe Morisot's paintings. But then Julie also did quite a few paintings of her own. So that was really cool to see. It was also really neat because they had some of Berthe and Manet's paintings of copies they did from the Louvre, which, if you remember from the episode, we talked about how that's how Manet met Berthe Morisot, because she and her sister were in the Louvre basically as a copyist, because that was really the only way for women at the time to learn how to paint. And so he met her there. And so they had some of the paintings that they did as copyists of some of these Italian masters that are in the Louvre today.
Oh, I love that, the copyists.
Yeah, so I was super excited about that. Then they also have some of the pieces that were in their own collection from her husband. And there was a Delacroix self-portrait, which I just about lost it over. I was like, oh my goodness, and I'd never seen it before. But it's a smaller exhibit and it's absolutely amazing. And it goes until March 20th of 2022. So if you're in Paris, definitely make sure you go check that out. The Marmottan Monet is also where they hold Impression Sunrise, which is Monet's painting of the sunrise, which gave the entire movement its name, was from that painting.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's really cool. There's a bunch of water lilies and things there. It's a really, really cool museum. It's not huge, so you could definitely do it, in like 2 hours. It actually has quite a bit of a permanent collection too, where you could find some more Morisot's in there, and also some more Monet. But it's a really cool museum to go check out.
I haven't been there in forever.
Yeah, you should definitely go see it, especially right now. And then the other one that I recently came across that I just was super excited about was in the Pompidou. Is there is a little between the different rooms. There's these rooms that are just kind of, it's almost a hallway, but in the hallway they have cases, and there were four cases filled with paintings and sketches by Suzanne Valadon,
Aha, we
our
love her.
our very first lady that we talked about. So that was really cool that she I finally was able to see so many sketches, because unfortunately not a lot of her stuff remains and you can't really find it in a lot of places. Of course you could find some of it in the Musée Montmartre, because you go in there and you see her old studio as well. But I was very excited to see these sketches that she had done. There's a couple paintings that she has done. Of course, you could see some of her son's painting, Utiro, who is at the Orangerie. You could see some of his paintings there, and also in the Montmartre too.
We love the Montmartre Museum. It's my favorite.
Yes, it's very cool. And then another one I actually just went to go see today was I went to the Musée Jacquemart André, which we talked about Nelly Jacquemart in episode 115. So it was really cool to go there and see again, even though I've been there 2 or 3 times already. But it's always these things, because I do more research and read and write about these things, that even when I go back when I've seen them before, there's new things that I notice every time. And so you could go in there, and this time I was they didn't have it on display the last time, the actual self portrait that she did. I also saw the portrait that she did of her future husband
Ah,
Edward, and I saw that in one of the rooms, so that was really neat. She does also have she had a couple of Vigée Lebrun, which is we talked about her in episode 55, who she, of course, did a lot of the paintings of Marie Antoinette. But she has a couple paintings there of her. And I also saw some at the Musée de Camondo, which is another gorgeous museum that is not very far from the Jacquemart André as well.
oh, I've never been to that one. Would you recommend it?
Oh yeah, I love that one. I mean, both of those museums are what I love about the Jacquemart and the Commando is because they were collections that these people left to France with the specific instructions that nothing was to change. So everything had to be left the way that they left it and the way that they displayed. So both of them, you go into their, because the museums are in their former homes. So you really get to walk in and be like you're basically in their life.
Oh,
You're seeing both of these spaces exactly how they had it when they were there.
that's so cool. So they're not allowed to change anything.
No, but I did notice when I went to the Jacquemart, I was like, wait a minute, that painting by Jacques Louis David is usually over here on an easel, and now it's in a room, and I was like, that's not how it was before.
So they can move the artwork a little bit, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's some, and some of those things are stipulations. Commodore, his brother, also had a vast art collection, and when he died, he left it to the Louvre. Now, a lot of that collection is separated between the Louvre and the Orsay, because when he did it in 1911, it was specifically, he said, for 50 years it had to remain intact. So after 1961, the Louvre sent, the stuff that was the Impressionists over to the Orsay in the 80s when that opened. And then the stuff that he had at the Louvre is just kind of scattered throughout the Louvre now. It's not all together in one room.
I think it'd be hard not to move anything. I mean, they have to
Yeah,
Move
there.
stuff.
I mean, what is kind of cool right now in the Louvre, and I think it'll probably, unless they also had a stipulation, is there is a collection and it's up on the second floor. And when you go up to the second floor of the Richelieu wing, and if you take one of the elevators, you get right out the elevator. It's in the second room, and it's where you will actually find in the Louvre, where you could actually find some of the Impressionists. There's some Monet and Renoir. There's even Fantin Latour and some Sicily. There's some of those there because that the people that bequeathed that to the Louvre said you can't move it. So normally those paintings would be in the Orsay because the Louvre, I think it's like 1868, I believe is the date. It's right around there. So don't quote me on it. I'll put it on my website. But it's basically any art after that date goes to the is to the Orsay. And the Orsay is actually a very short period of time. It's only like a 70-year span. And then after
Wow.
that, it's kind of mostly at the Pompidou. That's how it
I
kind of
was always
splits up.
like, what's the difference? Yeah, it's only the 60 years.
It's well, it's just because of it's the genre of the art during that period of time. You had the Second Empire, you had all of that. So that's what the Second Empire and the Impressionists is what you see most of at the Orsay. And I
Mhm.
think just because it was such a prolific time, it's just you could only have so much in one place. But that's why, you'll go to the Orsay, and you'll see maybe some of the same artists you'll see at the Pompidou, but it'll be separated that way because of the year.
Yeah, yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah, so some of that stuff. So when you go to the Louvre, you can still see some impressionists, but it's kind of sneaky.
You gotta look for them. They don't make it obvious.
They don't make it obvious at all. But the other one that of course we love is and this is this museum. I saw both of these things in there, and that's what made me want to do the episodes that we did. We did of Valtess, our one of our very first courtesans we talked about, number 70 in episode 79. She is in the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, which is a wonderful museum, and that's where you could find her bed.
Oh, her bed.
Yeah, so it's a big bed that we talked about that had it used to be like a blue velvet, and it had a big canopy on the back, and it had on the very top of it and at the feet of the bed it would have incense burners, brass incense burners. And so she'd be in bed with her newest client, and would be having these burners flaming with
Oh
perfume
my
and incense. But they
god.
don't have that. They don't, they're not operational anymore. I mean, maybe they still work, but it's probably not something they really want in the museum, flame shooting up. But you can see that there. And then the other really cool thing there is when we talked about Jean Lavin back in episode 59, she was that amazing designer that did everything first. She was the first one to do sportswear. She did, you know, also had menswear. She did like ski wear. She was the very first designer to do to make perfume. She basically did all of the things that other designer, who I do not like to even say her name, everybody thinks she did first, including the little black dress. Jean Levin did pretty much everything before she did. And in the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, they have a couple of her rooms. So they have her former bedroom that's in her signature Lavin blue, which is kind of a cornflower kind of blue. If you remember when you were kids and you had the box of crayons and it was the cornflower blue that you really never used. It was a strange color, but it's beautiful in this room. It also has one that I think it's the her little her little vanity area that's all in this beautiful yellow color. So they saved it from when they were going to destroy this building, and they brought the entire interior, and it's now at the Musée des Arts Décoratifs.
I just visited that for the first time ever, like 6 months ago. I didn't even know it existed.
Oh, that's right. I remember. And I said, well, you sent me a message from there, and I was like, did you go see the bed?
Yeah, like I just didn't even know it existed. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Unfortunately, right now the permanent collection is closed until the beginning of December.
Oh wow.
So I just went there the other day to see the Thierry Mugler exhibit, which was crazy over the top, just crazy costume designs. It was amazing. But I really, I always love to go and look at the permanent collection and I've gone like probably 7 or 8 times. But it's all closed right now because anytime they're starting to put in a new exhibit, that whole area gets closed off. So I was kind of bummed out.
Yeah, because the first time I went there, they just had closed the permanent, and
Yeah.
I was like, wait, this is supposed to be the best part, and you can't see it.
Yeah, they do it. I mean, unfortunately, it's more often I find it closed than open. So definitely go and it doesn't really give you that information on the website. You can't really find that. So hopefully everybody's coming, I did see a sign saying, beginning of December, it was like after the 2nd or the 4th, I believe, that it would be reopened. So when you come, hopefully if you're coming in December or beyond, hopefully you'll be able to get in there and see the permanent collection.
Yeah, I want to see it because the pictures look amazing online.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I mean, it spans like everything. I mean, it's arts decorative, so it's furniture. There's one room that's just a room of chairs, and it's one of my favorites. And it's like it basically has like a chronological order of the style of chairs, and they're like hanging on a wall. And then you have ones with like the different fabrics, and it's a Louis the 14th style, and a Louis the 15th, and a Louis the 16th, and it's like I think it's like 8 or 10 different chairs, and it's just really, really cool. And then you go through the Second Empire, you could see a huge framed painting of Madame du Barry, who we've also talked about. There's a throne of Napoleon there. There's one room that has these tapestries, or it's not tapestries, it's more like wallpaper, I guess is the easiest way to describe it. But it tells the story of Psyche, her whole life, and so those are all I love going in and seeing those. So it's really cool, and make sure you do it, chronologically, and it basically starts from the Middle Ages.
Oh, wow, the Middle Ages.
Yeah, so it's like you have rooms that are like the Middle Ages, and then if you just keep going in order, but it's kind of, it's located in, what you would still call the Louvre. It's part of the actual building of the Louvre. It's on the Rue de Rivoli side on what would be, I guess it's the west side of it, and it takes up part of that space. It's not technically, considered part of the Louvre. You can't get it, it's not, officially functioning as part of the Louvre. It's in the Louvre building proper, I guess you could call it.
The Louvre building proper. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. But if you're looking at it, if you're standing outside, you can't tell that it's any different from, it is the building of the Louvre.
Yeah. It looks like it's all connected. It's inside there.
Yeah, it's all connected, but you can't go and say, I have my Louvre ticket. And they'll be like, yeah, no, you need your own ticket.
And they're really strict about the times too, because I went there with some people and like we had an hour early and they're like, it's not the right time. And I'm like, but all the hours are open. They made me go and book it again online with the right hour.
Oh, well, I wish they would have done that today at the Jacquemart Audrey when I went to go see the Botticelli exhibit, which is a beautiful, beautiful exhibit. The paintings are beautiful from what I saw, because the rooms are, and they do a beautiful job with exhibits there, but the rooms are very small, and there were so many people in there, I could barely see anything. And the amount of times I kept getting pushed and shoved by 70-year-old men and women. At one point, I just was like, I can't take this anymore. And I left, and I didn't even finish the exhibit, because when a guy got in front of me and literally like hip checked me to get me out of the way of looking at a painting, I just was like, nope, can't do this anymore.
That's why I won't even like bother with the new exhibitions. I remember when the Coco Chanel exhibition was new and the line was just wrapped around the Louvre, and I was like, nope, never gonna see that.
Oh, she would never be in the Louvre.
She was in the Antiquities, or the one you were just talking about.
Oh, the Musée des Arts Décoratifs.
Yeah.
Keep her out of my precious Louvre. But yeah, it was, it reminded me of the Da Vinci exhibit at the Louvre, and that's the only time I would say anything bad about the Louvre, is that was just a nightmare. And I know that they're trying to do these time tickets because of COVID, and but it's like there was no such thing as COVID in the amount of people were in this room, and it was just ridiculous. And if you're going to have time tickets, at least manage it to make sure that you don't have a million people at the same time, because it just it was not enjoyable, and you couldn't see anything and you couldn't read anything, and it was just like, this is ridiculous. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad I didn't have to pay for the ticket.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point of going, if you can't even enjoy it?
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But of course, and then speaking of our my wonderful Louvre and the Orsay, you could see so many of the ladies because we talked about so many of the female impressionists. Of course, Bert Morisot, and then we have Suzanne Valadon, who you see in the paintings of that Renoir did, and then of course our other lady Victorine, who sadly we don't have any of her paintings in Paris to see. She was the one that was in Déjeuner sur l'Herbe, and she was also Olympia. And she was an artist of her own, if we remember from that episode number 20, that she, most of the stuff that she did do was destroyed after she died.
Oh, wow, they destroyed it all.
Yeah, remember she was the one that they found it in they found some of her stuff in the attic, and a neighbor has said to have seen this giant pile of paintings being burned.
I remember that. That's so sad.
It's very sad, and apparently there's a few of her paintings in I can't, I want to say it's maybe in like Grenoble or someplace like that. I mean, it's someplace far from everything.
Yeah,
and
far from
uh
everything.
and there's only like I think there was like two paintings of hers there maybe, which is really sad. But we can still see her beautiful face, and even at the time, if her beautiful face and her body completely freaked out everybody in Paris with Olympia and Déjeuner sur l'Herbe, we still get to see her there.
Well, at
But
least we saved some of her work.
exactly, yeah. And then of course there's Camille Claudel, who's there. You can see her beautiful sculptures there, and also at the Rodin. And then recently, when I was in the Orsay and I saw Mary Cassatt pictures, that was always exciting because she, was an American that came and lived in Paris at that time during the Impressionists, and she was really welcomed into this boys' club. And it's just fun to see some of those paintings after we've talked about them so much.
Yeah, I like knowing the history and then actually staring at them. It means
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, there's still supposed to be that painting of Valtess that's in there. And I don't think it's on display. I need to go back, and I need to go back in the next few days and see if I could find it. The Orsay used to have a great website where it would tell you, because they move things all the time. I've gone in there with clients and said, oh, and around the corner, there's another Fantin Latour. And then I turned the corner and I'm like, it was here yesterday, and now it is not.
And now it's gone.
But of course, my beloved Louvre. You could of course see quite a few of the ladies because we've talked about Gabrielle d'Atrice, of course, who was the mistress of Henry IV, and that is the painting of her that's there with her sister pinching her nipple. The international sign of pregnancy. I've asked many people I've taken to the Louvre if while they were pregnant people did that to them, and they said no. So I don't really think it's a well known thing that people do anymore. But of course, there's Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun. You can see her painting of her, with a tiny smile on her face that freaked everybody out, and they call it this first smile in Western art. And then Eugenie, the wife of Napoleon III. There's a beautiful big portrait of her in the apartments of Napoleon III, although he never stayed there.
Oh yeah, that's right. We always think that.
Yeah, and they called it that, and it was always just the ministry's office. So it never, it was basically the ministry had it as this very fancy, palatial looking place. But Napoleon III, it was never actually an apartment. So I need to ask my Louvre people, like, why exactly are we calling it the
You
apartment?
should ask your Louvre people, like, what's up with that?
Yeah, what is with that? But then another thing that I love is Madame Recamier. That you see the beautiful painting that Jacques Louis David did of her. That is in the salle right across, and it's looking. She's looking at it at eternity at Napoleon and his coronation. And then, but what's really cool is in the Louvre you could find her actual bedroom furniture in the Louvre as well. Just kind of around. It's actually not very far from the apartments in Napoleon III. Well, that's the whole area, the objet d'art. So you have all of the, furnishings and things like that. But her actual bedroom, and her bed is in there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Her bed is in
Yeah,
there.
which is really cool. And those beds are always, you look at them and say, how small were these people? Because a lot of them, they believed you had to sit up to sleep, because if you lay down, you could choke and die.
Oh yeah, that was so funny.
So, like just yesterday, the Marberton Monet, they actually have a bed of Napoleon's there. They have a room, couple rooms that have some paintings of Napoleon and some busts of his family, and they have one of his beds there. And I mean, it looks like, a toddler would sleep on this bed. And so it doesn't really help when everybody thinks that Napoleon's really short, which he wasn't. He was pretty much the average size of Frenchman back then. But people do that, they still think that he was very short, but he wasn't actually that short.
Yeah, he was about average, right? He was like
Yeah.
5'8".
Yeah. So average, and then a lot of French people are a little bit shorter,
Hmm.
as compared to Americans. And so he was just kind of average, but it's,
He was normal.
he was normal with a very, his ego was much, much taller.
Had to
um,
be.
Yeah, but then of course, and then our other lady that we loved was Diane de Poitiers, and she has, there's that amazing, amazing sculpture of her that Jean Goujon did, the Diane Danette, that he had created for her for her Chateau Danette. And but they're now saying that they don't think it was Jean Goujon that did it. They think maybe it must have been another sculptor, but excuse me, you could also find kind of buried into the Sully wing in the where they have all the French paintings on the second floor. The entire second floor of the Sully wing is all French paintings. And I spent about 6 days going through every single room, making notes and taking pictures and doing research on them. And I was as just absolute heaven. But there's a really cool painting in there of her visiting the workshop of Jean Goujon, and he's working on the sculpture.
Ah,
So it's
wait,
all connected.
it's one big incestuous circle.
It is, but it's really cool. That's where you could also find. Another thing I love is that you could find sketches, and so I'm going to do something about this on my website, because we've talked about before. We've talked about Liberty Leading the People and some of those paintings, but you could find two different versions of the Jericho's Raft to the Medusa, like his early sketches. And then also you could find Liberty Leading the People. You could also find a sketch of Jacques-Louis David, Sacré de Napoleon. So it's really interesting to find those early sketches and then compare them to the final version, because they do change things, and it's just really interesting to see that.
Did you notice it changes a lot?
Yeah, I mean, one of the early sketches that Delacroix did of Liberty Leading the People, it's, there's only, a fraction of the figures in it that he did in his final version. Jericho, he changed some of the positions of the people holding onto the raft. And then there's a ton of versions of sketches that David did, but there's just only the one small sketch that I've seen inside the Louvre itself. But there's other versions of it where, the Pope is sitting there with his hands on his lap, and that's when Napoleon said, "I didn't bring him all the way here to do nothing." So he made David paint him with holding up his hand, like pointing his finger, like, giving like a sign of a blessing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So they,
it's really interesting to find those. There's also, like, you could find some Ingres. You could see where he did these paintings of, like, he was working out the hands and the feet of his the apotheosis of Omer. And
Mhm.
so that's really neat to find that. And you could go back into the Louvre and find the main painting, and then just look at it and kind of match it up and match up whose hands were whose. And, he has like a side of a side view of Raphael, the painter. So it's really interesting to find all those, because it's like this little, treasure hunt.
I like a good treasure hunt.
Yeah. So I'll put all that together so you don't have to try to run around to do it. So it's on my very long list of things to write about and to share.
Go to ClaudineHemingway.com. Oh, Blue Blonde Rouge, Claudine Hemingway.
Yes, ClaudineHemingway.com, and then my Instagram is Claudine Blue Blanc Rouge or Facebook Blue Blanc Rouge, just to make it, keep you on your toes.
Keep us wondering where to find Claudine.
Yeah, but if you are going to be coming to Paris I do also do trip planning for people, and the trip planning would also include, I put a bunch of history in there for you too, of things, to look for. And I could do it a specific, I had one gal that was like, I want to come and find all the Marie Antoinette stuff. So I put together a huge thing of like, go here and go here. You could find, a painting of her here. You could find a bust of her here. So, it's, I could even if you've been here before, or it is your first time, I could help you navigate it like a pro.
And she is the best, people. You need Claudine. She's fun to hang out with, and she knows all the things in perfect English.
In perfect English. The French, well, we're working on that still.
Yeah. If you want a tour in French, okay, ask somebody else. But in English, Claudine's your girl.
I'll say the name. I could give you the names and the names of the paintings in perfect French, but if I had to do the whole thing in French right now, probably not yet.
We're getting there. We're working our way there.
We're working on it.
Well, thank you so much, Claudine. And we hope you guys enjoyed this little tidbit of information about museums you need to be visiting, women you need to be seeing in the art world. And tune in next week for another episode.
Thank you for listening to Paris History Avec a Hemingway. If you want to find out some more, you could always find me on my Instagram page, Claudine Bleu Blanc Rouge, and that's BLEU, as in the French way to spell it. And each day I post a daily history lesson about a person or a place or something in Paris, or it's lots of fun facts. And then also at ClaudineHemingway.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter there.